What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Go Talk with Marcus, powered by Podex, fueled by Go Fuel. Once again, joining me on the show is my guy Jalen Hunter of the Unpopular podcast. What's up, man? How you doing today?
How you doing, man? I appreciate you having me. I appreciate it, man.
I appreciate you for coming on. As always, it's always a pleasure to talk ball with you. Um, Celtics Heat went all the way to 7. Celtics got the job done last night on Miami's floor. They will be going to San Francisco to take on the Golden State Warriors in Game 1 on Thursday of the NBA Finals. Before we get into the Celtics and their road and how they got here, let's talk about Miami first. I think it was during Game 5 or maybe it was Game 6. I can't remember. Joel Embiid tweeted twice. One of them said that, man, Miami needs another star. Does Miami need another star? Because we're of the same mindset, if I remember correctly, of Jimmy Butler not being a superstar caliber player. Not that he is not extremely talented and a good basketball player, but that he is not a superstar. Does Miami need another star to get back to the finals?
I'll say this: playoff series and with playoff series being over, they bring a lot of clarity to whether either if you win or you lose. And shouts out to Monica McNutt. She definitely reminded me of something this morning on TV. I don't think they need another star if Victor Oladipo is able to get back to where he was supposed to be. Because think about it, when they got Victor Oladipo, the vision and the hope was he would be the Indiana Pacers at Victor Oladipo, former All-Star. And as you clearly saw in in that series against Boston, that Miami struggles with scoring the ball. Yep. Well, Victor Oladipo's strongest attribute before, of course, the injuries was scoring the ball. So if Victor Oladipo can get back to Indiana Pacers, which is, trust me, it's easier said than done, especially after the injuries that he's been through, then no, I don't think they need another scorer. Because hell, they just went 7 games where Bam Adebayo only had 2 good games. They went 7 games where Kyle Lowry didn't have a good game. Yeah. So it's like you're going 7 games with the team that ultimately goes to the finals, and you have pretty much one consistent scorer. I mean, think about it. They played 2 undrafted players like religiously, and Gabe Vincent and Max Strus, and Strus started. So I think if Victor Oladipo is able to get back to the Indiana Pacers anywhere resembling close to that, then no, I don't think they need another star. But if he's unable to, then of course, there's no way that you can look at what we saw from Miami and think they're okay with how they are. I know they're probably beating themselves up right now from that Kyle Lowry contract. I know that they're looking at that bench and saying, yo, why the hell is it that we could barely go to the bench? And this is supposed to be such a, the number 1 overall seed, supposed to be highly, supposed to be they were like one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the regular season, just to turn out to be how they are. So I think it really, to answer your question directly, I think it really depends on if Victor Oladipo is able to get back to the Indiana Pacers, Victor. If not, then of course they need another star. But quiet as it's kept, who are you going to get? Like the star pool of available stars isn't now. We know that Miami's able to wheel and deal. Pat Riley's the best out of them, but who are you going to get? I don't see, unless Donovan Mitchell. But is that really enough? Russell Westbrook ain't it? Like, who are you getting? So I think it really depends on Victor Oladipo, to be honest with you.
I think it depends, but I think it depends more on Bam than it does Vic. I think it'd be asking, and it's not that he can't do it. I think it would be asking too much of Victor Oladipo, given his injury history, try to get back to that. Although it's not at all it's not impossible for him to do so, but Bam just has to play more consistently. Like, in this series wasn't the first time that Bam kind of disappeared. Bam struggled against the Sixers. Bam struggled against the Hawks, and there was no real imminent threat in that series down low because Clint Capella didn't play that entire series because he was injured. So I'm looking at Bam Adebayo, and like you said, he only had 2 good games in a 7-game series. It was still enough for the Heat. This is a team that has proven that it is possible for you to get to the finals without a star. They were just in the finals 3 years ago in the bubble. It's not, or 2 years, however long it was. It's not completely out of reach for Miami. They just have to get consistency. Them not playing Duncan Robinson, I think at all through the course of this run, but specifically in this series was interesting given all the money that they're paying Duncan Robinson. Well, I don't know if Robinson's hurt or not. But that just doesn't make any sense. You're right. Not being able to go to the bench is also an issue, because this is supposed to be one of the deepest benches and one of the best benches in basketball, and they couldn't really rely on their bench in the big moments. Hence the reason why Jimmy Butler in the last 2 games of the series missed 2 minutes in both games combined. He played every single minute of Game 7. He played 46 of the 48 minutes in Game 6. And it just still wasn't enough because everybody around him just wasn't playing basketball the way that we were accustomed, I guess, to them playing basketball through the course of the regular season. I think that's the issue. It's not the lack of star power because they have enough talent to make up for that. It's just the guys around Jimmy just weren't being who they were supposed to be when they really needed to be those players.
Well, I agree to a certain extent what you're saying, but I have a stat for you. Maybe you didn't know this or not. When Duncan Robinson, we're just talking about the Celtics series, when Duncan Robinson and Max Strus was guarding Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown, I'm just asking you, because this is the GOAT Talk podcast with Marcus. Do you know the percentage of which Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum combined shot?
I'm pretty sure it'd be 100 because neither of those guys are good.
It was 90%. So I know why Duncan Robinson didn't touch the floor, no matter how much.
He's not known for his defense. I mean, as far as being the spark plug off of the bench that he wasn't.
And I also understand. So he was shooting 25% from the 3-point line in the playoffs. And you've talked about this because I watched this podcast. You've talked about what does Duncan Robinson do best and only do, and that's shoot threes. Well, when you're not hitting threes, and on top of that, you're getting the doors blown off of you because they're hunting you just like Luka hunted Chris Paul. It's not going to work. And here's the pushback. I'm going to shoot him a little bit of bail, but I do agree with you that he needed to be better.
He didn't.
Bam Adebayo is a career 19 and 10 player. In the playoffs, that while it did go down to 14 points a game, when we talk about Bam Adebayo, usually what we talk about is his defense. Now, yes, his defense for sure needed to be better because he was getting torched.
And that's more so what I was like. His defense would. I don't expect Bam to score because he's not a scorer, but defensively, he did not look like a guy that was in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation throughout much of this season.
And the question that was not the question, the problem that we saw most by Miami this playoff run, let alone now, of course, it came back to bite them in the Eastern Conference Finals, was the fact that outside of Jimmy Butler, who was their consistent score. I think I came on here and said, yo, Tyler Hero, you can't trust that in the playoffs.
You did. Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so now that Tyler Hero isn't giving you those 20 points a game, who is it? Kyle Lowry, of course, they're going to say he had a hamstring injury. Well, okay, cool. So Kyle Lowry, hamstring injury. That's why I'm going to shoot Bam a little bit of bail, saying that, yes, you need to be better defensively. And yes, you can't let Al Horford push you from under the basket to the 3-point line with one hand. That's not cohesive. But even with Bam doing all that, they were literally a jump shot away from being in the finals.
Yeah.
So that's why I said if Jimmy Butler had a consistent number 2 score, which is why they brought Victor Oladipo in, then I think we wouldn't really, I'm not going to say we wouldn't be talking about Bam, but Bam's lowlights wouldn't be as bright as they were. You know what I mean? I think that shot definitely, or that missed shot definitely brought a bunch of narratives and spotlight a lot of things. Because at the end of the day, if he would have made it, we would have been talking about, should we blow up the Celtics? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's not.
That is true. I'm never going to hold Bam Adebayo to high standards offensively. Not that he can't produce, but that's not what he's known for. He's known for his defense, and he was not at all the guy that we saw in the playoffs when he went to the finals in the bubble. He was not at all the guy that we saw through the course of the regular season defensively. He just looked, not just in this season, but throughout the course of their run, he just didn't look like the Bam Adebayo that we know on the defensive side of the ball. Right now, as you mentioned, the star pool is kind of occupied, right? You've got most of the superstars are in California, and whether it's in Golden State or either the Los Angeles markets, you have Giannis in Milwaukee. KD and Kyrie are in Brooklyn for now. Who knows what's happening out there? There's a lot of star power and tier 2 star power pretty much occupied, with none of those guys really looking like they're going to go anywhere. So where does Miami go from here? Like, do they run it back with the roster as constructed and just kind of hope they can catch lightning in the bottle again like they did in the bubble? Or do you expect, because as you mentioned, Pat Riley is known for being able to talk about pulling rabbits out of a hat. Pat Riley is known for doing that. Do you think we're going to see that in the offseason? Where does Miami go moving forward?
I think they're going to need to try. I mean, again, we just highlight the fact that Miami more than likely is beating themselves up with that Kyle Lowry contract. You see, what teams like to do is they like to lie to themselves. They like to lie to themselves to make themselves feel better about the circumstances that they're in. Excuse me. So they're going to look at Kyle Lowry and said, well, if it wasn't that hamstring, if his hamstring was cool, it's cool. That's what they're going to tell themselves. Not the fact that Kyle Lowry was a straight garbage. He was a turnover machine. He couldn't shoot to save his life. He looked like he was out of shape in the playoffs. It just didn't, So that's what they're going to tell themselves. And they're going to tell themselves that because it's going to be challenging as hell to get I don't think that they're going to be able to get another star. I don't think they're going to be able to. But what I think they're going to do is they look at the roster and realize, well, damn, we could not go to our bench at all. Yeah. I mean, what happened to Morris? Morris didn't freaking play. Like, they couldn't get – they're beating themselves up with that Kyle Lowry contract and now that Duncan Robinson contract. Because the one thing that Duncan Robinson was supposed to be able to do, he couldn't do. So it's like I think they're going to try to get supplementary pieces. I think they're going to try to get, try to bolster up that bench. I think they're going to take a big swing. And I think, mark my words, I think that big swing is either going to be Donovan Mitchell or Bradley Beal. If they're not able to pry one of those two from Utah or Washington, then they're going to really look at the bench and say, hey, they're going to lie to themselves and say, hey, we just got to the Eastern Conference Finals. We were a play away. Not the fact that we were a play away because one of your players in Jimmy Butler had an all-time 2-game run.
Yeah.
And Bam Adebayo finally decided to be aggressive when he needed to be. So I think they're the biggest, they're going to do what they can do, hopefully. And that is bolster up that bench, understand that, yeah, Gabe Vincent is a good story, not saying cut him or anything. Yeah, Max Strus is a good story, but shouts out to Keyshawn Johnson. He says, hey, man, they play good for a minute, but there's a reason why there's undrafted in front of their name. And it's hard to there's not too many Fred VanVleets. There's not too many Ryan Clarks. You know what I mean? Like those success stories of being undrafted is very rare. Right. And I think they're just going to try. They're going to have to try to address that bench and get more scoring and more two-way players, which is also a challenge because there's not too many of those in the league. But they're gonna make a swing. I think they're gonna have to take a swing. And if you can, which of course every team should, but if you can get a Bradley Beal with Jimmy Butler, that's, I mean, bada bing, bada boom. If you can get a Donovan Mitchell, not saying that's gonna put you over the top, but we've seen Donovan Mitchell put up 50s like it's nobody's business. So that's I think that's
when the 50s really matter. I mean, I would think. I mean, Donovan Mitchell is definitely the first thing that comes to mind, obviously, because there's clearly the Mitchell-Gobert pairing in Utah has come to it's run its course. I think it's run its course well before this season. But finally, the people in Utah have realized it's run its course. I would hope for Utah's sake, though, they don't part ways from Donovan Mitchell, because if they do, they'll set themselves back a lot, because building around Gobert is not a recipe for success at all. The Bradley Beal point, I think, is a good one. Bradley Beal is already on record, as if anyone is surprised. He is already on record as saying that if the contract is offered, he will sign yet another supermax with the Wizards. You have to respect the loyalty of Bradley Beal to stay in the dumpster that is Washington, D.C.
Do you, though?
I mean, loyalty. It's hard to find a guy being loyal to a team nowadays. That like that. I want Bradley Beal to win a championship. I
It's
want.
also hard to find a team to offer you 250 M's, brother.
It's
Like,
that's true. It's not. I want. Trust me. I want Bradley to leave. I want to see Bradley go and do great things. I think Bradley Beal in Miami would be definitely interesting. It would clearly be a step up from Washington. Anywhere would be a step up.
okay, brother. Okay.
In the Eastern Conference, as far as like making it to the playoffs, I think anything would be a step up because they're not going anywhere anytime soon. But I think Bradley Beal is more likely. I feel like Donovan Mitchell has a lot more suitors than Brad does, and it's not because Brad is a bad player. It's just because I don't really think a lot of people are confident in Bradley Beal as far as going out to pursue him and seeing what that could look like outside of DC. Donovan Mitchell has suitors likely all over the league in both contending teams, teams that are playoff in that bubble, and then teams that are looking to rebuild, like the Knicks and teams like that. Bradley Beal, I think, would be a nice fit for the Miami Heat. It would obviously take some pressure off of Jimmy Butler, where he wouldn't necessarily have to go off for 50 points or just about 50 points in a closeout game to win it. Jimmy, I think, can go back to kind of being that facilitator, which I think is what he likes to do, and that's where he plays his best ball, is when he's a facilitator first and a scorer second. Not that he can't score. Obviously, we saw that. So I'd be really interested to see if they go for Bradley Beal, and then if they do get Bradley Beal, what the Heat would look like. I think that'd be a very interesting 1-2 punch down in Miami. Speaking of 1-2 punches, right, you have Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum in Boston, who are obviously going to be playing in the NBA Finals. And it was just like a couple months ago, people were saying that these two need to split up, and now they're side by side going against the Golden State Warriors. Where does Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown rank? And I feel like we've talked about this once before, but now that they're here now, where does Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown rank among the top duos in the NBA at this point?
Well, let me, as one of the people that said that was on the they should trade Jason Tatum or Jalen Brown, they should split them up. Let me tell you first why I said that. Before this season, Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown did the same exact thing. The difference is, of course, Jalen Tatum is a better player than Jalen Brown. One thing that they both did not do was play defense. It was kind of resembling the CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard type pairing. As far as you have two players that do the same thing, not saying that Jason Tatum's on the same level as Dame, but you have two players do the same thing, one at a better level than the other, but there's a separate side of the ball that's completely missing. And I said, you want to get as much assets as possible for at least I wouldn't trade Tatum for Jalen Brown. The difference this year is they both dedicated themselves to the defensive side of the ball. And because of that, now you're seeing Boston as one of the best, or in the NBA Finals. So I would have to say that they're. I mean, we're looking at it in a retrospective. Think about the players that were injured this year. Mm-hmm. You know, we've a lot of people don't even talk about Kawhi Leonard and Paul George as much because we haven't seen Kawhi Leonard in damn near a year. Yeah. Of course, you still have Steph and Clay. I think we need to see a full season of KD and Kyrie. Shouts out to your people, James Harden and especially in the regular season. But I will say that Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown are I don't know how to rank them without like on paper, but they are one of the top. I will say at least top 10 because of where they were, what they're able to now that they're just dedicating themselves to the defense side of the ball. Shouts out to Ime Udoka. They are two very lethal 1-2 punches as far as offense and defense. And the fact that, Jason Tatum can put up 30 and then Jalen Brown can put up 40 on top of that, their defense doesn't completely fall off as much. I don't know exactly where as far as a number, but I will say I can say top 10 because there's a lot of stars in the league that don't really have a solid second option like I don't know, like Luka,
right?
Maybe like John Morant. Shouts out to Triple J. Shouts out to Desmond Bain, but I wouldn't put them in the top 10. Right. So, and now we're looking at the Chris Paul, Devin Booker situation a little differently. Yeah. So I would say probably top 10 because of both their dedications to the defense side of the ball, which they were lacking the first 4 years of their career, pretty much.
I think I agree with you. They're definitely in the top 10. If I'm just trying to think of, I'd still, and this is me personally, I'd still take Kawhi and Paul George over them because both of them are better defenders individually and collectively.
They're better players. It's okay. We can say they're better players.
They're also better players. I would still take Steph and Clay over them. The toughest one is LeBron and AD for me personally, because while I still think that LeBron is a top 3 player in the league, Anthony Davis is hurt all the
time. Yeah,
and when healthy, you could obviously make an argument that LeBron and AD are the better duo.
Yeah,
but because AD isn't always healthy, it's so hard to make that argument and say that LeBron and AD are better than Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown as a collective. That's really the only one that's kind of fuzzy to me. I would, as much as it may surprise you, I would take Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown over James Harden and Joel Embiid because they're just more versatile and because both of them can play defense. James Harden doesn't play defense unless he wants to play defense. So like there's that. I would take these guys over Jokic and Murray. I would definitely take these.
Hold on. I'm sorry. What? I know we ain't seen Murray in a brick. But
we have not seen Joe. I have been saying for the past month or so, at least leading up to Jokic winning another MVP, which I don't think he should have. That Jamal Murray was the best player on the team, at least in the playoffs. I really just feel like moving forward that they'll be the better duo. I think they'll compile more success individually and collectively as a duo. Not that Jokic and Murray are bad players. I'd much rather have Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown than I would Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. I would take them over KD and Kyrie. I think that they at least at this point, because we still haven't seen, and they've been together for 3 years now. We still haven't seen KD and Kyrie play a season's worth of games. Not even like in one season, but like in 3 years, they're not even close to playing 82 games together. So let's step away from Jalen Brown for a second and just talk about Jason Tatum, because this is something I think that's worth mentioning. We always talk about the hierarchy of the NBA. If I'm not mistaken, you are the mindset that Giannis Antetokounmpo is the best player in basketball. There are other people that think that KD is the best player in basketball. There are other people that think that LeBron James is still the best player in basketball. So far on this run, leading the Celtics, Jason Tatum and the Celtics have swept KD, who's a top 3 player in the league. He swept Giannis, who most people believe is the best player in the league. And not swept Giannis, and he's gotten past Jimmy Butler, who, while not a superstar, is a very solid player. Now he's standing on the opposite side of the court from Steph, Clay, and Dre. Steph is another top 5 player in the league. Let's say the Celtics win the finals, it doesn't matter how many games, 4, 5, 6, 7, however many games it takes for them to win the championship. Let's say Jason Tatum wins the chip. 1, doesn't make him top 5, but 2, and more importantly, doesn't make him the best player in the world.
Oh man. No, in my opinion, it doesn't make him top 5, nor does it make him best player in the world. But I do think that you're going to be talking about Jason Tatum in a different light. I think you're going to have to talk about Jason Tatum the same way that you talk about Luka Doncic. Not saying that they're on the same level.
I'm so glad you said that. We were having that conversation the other day.
But you're talking about what, year 4, year 5 of Jason? Year 4, year 5, and you led a team, like clear leader of a team, to a championship. And just look at where they were in December compared to where they are now. And I don't think it'd be top 10 because, again, we're forgetting about a lot of players that are injured right now. And we saw a lot of play. I think when people hear, "Oh, they're not top 10," they think it's disrespectful. You know, like, "Oh, I'm disrespecting Jason Tatum." Like, no. Think about this. You can name 3 players in the Eastern Conference that were eliminated that can have an argument. Are they top 5 right now? You can name 2 players that didn't even make the playoffs that's going to be in your argument. Like, the league is just that good.
Yeah.
But I don't think it'll be top 5. I think maybe arguably top 10. But that's going to be tough because who do you take out? You know what I mean? I do think though we're going to have to talk about Jason Tatum in a different light. If he actually, you know what? Honestly, I don't even if he doesn't win, I think we have to start talking about Jason Tatum and Jason Tatum can be the lead. That was always the question. Jason Tatum is full of buckets. Like he's like a Brandon Ingram type player, but can he really lead a team? And now that we're seeing, well, he is the clear cut best player on the Celtics, and they're in the finals. So I think winning or losing, it doesn't really matter at this point.
Oh, 100%.
I think that you have to talk about Jason Tatum in a different light and more of a respectful. That's Jason Tatum. Like now, Jason Tatum is borderline a superstar in my opinion. I think I talked about it on my last episode of the podcast. The consistency needs to be there a little more. I mean, there's a legit stat about how his scoring goes down after wins compared to losses, but I think we're starting to talk about Jason Tatum, or we should start talking about Jason Tatum differently, seeing as though the run that he has been on. Because if you think about the players we just named that he went through, most of them play the same position as him.
Yeah.
So he's lining up against, Kevin Durant. He's lining up against Giannis. He's lining up against Jimmy Butler. And he was able to prevail. So I think that we have to start talking about him in a different light. But I wouldn't go as far as say top 5 or best in the world. Nah.
So I want to shout out my guy MJ because MJ is the
Jordan.
I wish that Jordan was that MJ was my guy. No, real talk with MJ. Was talking about this earlier today. About how it's possible that Jason Tatum could potentially be best player, but at least for right now, at the end of the season. And we had a conversation a couple days ago on Instagram about how many superstars there are in the NBA. Mm-hmm. I think there are a lot of players with superstar talent, and Jason Tatum is absolutely one of those players that has superstar talent. Mm-hmm. I do not, however, think that Jason Tatum is a superstar. And the reason is because when I think of superstars, you think of KD, Steph, LeBron, Kawhi, Giannis. That's 5. Those are the easy ones because they're all multi-time MVPs and they all have at least one championship. Like they have the accolades.
Yeah.
Then you can throw Anthony Davis in there, I guess, but he's hurt all the time, so. I don't know, but then the only other guy that's in there that I say, and I'll stand by this all the time, is Luka. And the only reason why I put him in there is because while he doesn't have the championship yet, I'm sure he'll get it. And while he doesn't have the MVP yet, and I'm sure he'll get at least 2 of those by the time his career is done. He didn't have the playoff success until this season when he went through the Jazz and then he got through the Suns in 7, and then while he did lose to the Warriors, he did still get to the Western Conference Finals. We have to remember, though, in Luka's defense, the first 2 times he made it to the playoffs, he was going up against Kawhi Leonard, who I just named as a superstar, and Paul George. And those are the 2 best two-way players in the league, I think, at this point in the NBA. And so, whatever. Jason Tatum has superstar talent. Trae Young has superstar talent. So does John Morant. But those guys are not, I don't think, superstars yet. I think we're very, very quick just throw the superstar label on someone because they are very, very talented. I do think, though, that you can make an argument right now, before he's ever even stepped foot on a finals court. I think you can make an argument right now that Jason Tatum is top 10. And I think it's because there are 2 guys in the top 10, in my opinion, right now that I think could take I think he has taken at least one of their places, and that's AD because he's always hurt. That's Dame. I would say more so Dame than AD because Jason Tatum's a better defender than Damian Lillard. But sure. I think an argument can be made that Jason Tatum is better than at least one of those guys. And if you don't have in your top 10, like, it's not the end of the world, right? This is the NBA where the best players in the world play basketball. Like it's being top 15 in this league is an extremely difficult thing to do. Yeah. I do, however, think, though, if Jason Tatum wins a championship, we can look at him as the best player under 25 in basketball. I think right now that's Luka. If he wins the championship, then the one difference between Luka and Jason Tatum would be that Jason Tatum has a championship.
Yeah.
And the argument's still close. And again, if you don't have him as the best player under 25, it's not the end of the world. And if you do, it's also not the end of the world. The one thing I do want to address, though, is we have to get rid of this legacy talk when we're talking. Like, we always like to talk about legacies with championships. And you turn on ESPN, and this is why I don't watch the nonsense, but you turn on ESPN and Fox Sports and all that stuff, and they talk about the legacy of Jason Tatum and the legacy of Jalen Brown, as if Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown aren't 24 and 25 respectively. Like, as talented as they are, and as great as Jason Tatum is, and as phenomenal of a player as Jalen Brown is, like, they're still pups in the league.
Yeah,
like they're still their ear, as the older people would say, their ears are still a little wet back there. Like still, this is their first real big moment, and whether they get swept, whether they lose in 5, 6, or 7, or whether they win the whole thing, like there is no losing at the end of the day for the Boston Celtics as a whole, for Jason Tatum, and especially for Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown. So I think he can be top 10. And I saw your face. I think at this point you can make a legitimate argument that he is top 10. Whether you put him in the top 10, I think is preference. But I think those are the two guys whose spots I think Jason Tatum is. If he's in the top 10, he has one of those two guys' spots.
I mean, I think you can make an argument that if I would have played the lottery, I would have won. You know what I mean? Like, arguments can be made everywhere. What I think we forget, again, injuries is a big thing.
That is true.
So I do understand where you're coming from, but I think we forget, because we ain't seen him in a minute, how good Damian Lillard can be. I mean, and we also forget.
I love Dame.
And we also forget, even though, like, I am on that slander buses at times as well, but we can forget how good Anthony Davis could be.
You're right. Injury does affect your memory. It does.
Yeah. And to address what you said about legacy, I think that it's not the fact that people talk. I don't think you need to stop legacy talk. I think people start legacy talk too early.
Right.
Because there's a thing about legacy. There's, like, when we talk about Charles Barkley, one thing nobody ever talks about, he was one of the best players ever. They talk about him. Well, he didn't win a ring. Nobody talks about the fact that Shaq, there's a lot of years where he was garbage. But they talk about, because of those rings, they talk about, he was the most dominant center. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I think that people start legacy talks too soon. Like, why the hell are we having a legacy talk about John Morant? And is this a legacy game for him? Why are we having a legacy talk about? Yeah, why are we have a legacy talk about players under 25? Yeah. Hell, some players under 22. So it's like, I think what people need to do is because there's legacies everywhere. We talk about 100%. Steph, we talk about KD, we talk about Bron. I just think we need to chill out with starting it too soon. Like, there should be no reason why you're in the 4th season, unless you like Luka and played since you were 9 in Real Madrid. So, but I can see the argument about Jason Tatum being top 10. I especially when you look at the run that they're on this playoffs. I can't let injuries cloud my judgment. Now, if they continue, that's why I'm not really fighting you back about Anthony Davis, because those continue. But I don't know, man. It's tough, because then, like you said, if we want to talk, we remember how good, even though it was for a brief second, we remember how good Zion looked. John Morant's.
I remember after his first game, 2K.
Exactly. There was just like, oh shoot, that's the next LeBron. I remember that. And we remember, and when we talk about superstars, I didn't hear you mention the 2-time MVP right now, Nikola Jokic. I didn't hear you mention Joel Embiid. So it's just, I agree with the premise that, let me say this, because we talked about this. Now I'll divulge our conversation a little bit. I said how I define, there's a lot of players. Stars have superstar talent. Bradley Beal has superstar talent.
Yes.
Zach LaVine has superstar talent. DeMar DeRozan has superstar talent. The difference is the consistency.
Yeah.
You know what you're going to get. Even if he has a bad game, you know what you're going to get from Steph Curry every day. You know what you're going to get from Kevin Durant. You know what you're going to get from Giannis. You know what you're going to get from LeBron. You know, players like that.
Right.
You don't know exactly what you can get. Those 3 for 25, and isn't that what a DeMar DeRozan shot this year, like 3 for 25 in a game?
He did shoot like 4 for 21 or something.
And had the nerve to say, I'm never going to shoot that bad a game, and then turn around.
Like 5 and 24, yeah.
So it's like, it's just the consistency. And that is why I am reluctant and hesitant to put Jason Tatum in the superstar and even top 10, because we've seen now, yes, you're able to do that when you have Jalen Brown scoring 40 on the other side, but we've seen games where Jason Tatum is 5 for 30, and it's like, I respect the confidence, but we needed you, bro. Or we've seen games where he's disappeared. As great as Jason Tatum is, he's disappeared in games. Now, I do think over time and growth and getting better, and that's clearly going to change. But that's why I'm reluctant in putting him in the superstar category. That's why I'm reluctant in putting him in the top 10. Because even healthy, we know what the hell we're getting from Damian Lillard. We know what we're getting from LeBron. We know what we're getting from Steph. And I'm not putting him in the top 10. I'm not putting him in the top 10. But we even know we're getting from Draymond Green. So it's just that once Jason Tatum, now again, it's also early. So once Jason Tatum starts to show the consistency that because the talent that he has, I mean, we remember just a year or two ago, he was putting up 60-point ball like it was nothing.
Yeah, his talent is undeniable. You're right. The thing about the superstars is that they're always going to do it.
They're always going to do it, even if they have bad games. It's like you don't look at it as like, well, damn, he needs to be better. It's like, well, he had a bad game. Yeah. So then that's
you hold them to that. You hold them to that standard. Like if you're going to give me this, I expect that, and you not give me that is a red flag. But it's not the norm.
Right? And that's the same.
Disappearing all the time.
Yeah, that's the same thing I put on Jimmy Butler. Right. I mean, he had a 47, then followed up with 35, but people forget he had 2 games where, and you can blame it on injury, but he had 2 games where he scored 17 points combined. So that's all I'm saying, man. Jason Tatum's great. He's a great player. It's hard for me to look at a Boston Celtics team and like, but it's still Jason Tatum, and I still respect that. But I would. That's why I am a little hesitant. Like he's knocking on the door of superstardom. I just need to see that consistency. Like we said.
That's fair. I mean, and so look, like the Celtics exercise their demons basically all this season. We talked on your show before the playoff starts about the odds of the Celtics making it here, and I think we were pretty much like right in that middle of the pack. Like if the matchups were favorable, then they would likely they were one of those teams that if the chips fell the right way, they could. They got Milwaukee, they got Brooklyn, they got Miami, and they were able to get the job done. Those were the 3 teams that had knocked them out of the playoffs in each of the last 3 seasons. So it was kind of a little
revenge
in his mind kind of thing for him. So now here they are in the finals for the first time since 2010, if I'm not mistaken. What do they have to do to beat the Warriors in this series? And do you have them beating the Warriors in this series?
All right. Am I able to talk about their trip to like their run real quick? I think now this is going to sound like hate. I know it is, but it's not. Their run, I think, has been a tad bit over exaggerated. I think that they've played the best players. I mean, you played KD, you played Kyrie, you played Giannis, you played Jimmy Butler in the #1 overall seed Miami Heat. But let's really look at their run. You played a Brooklyn team that was probably the easiest to defend out, especially with the Boston Celtics. And I'm not taking away from the defense, but you throw bodies at Kevin Durant, which they did, and you put a bigger body on Kyrie, which they did, and then you say, "Hey, if Seth Curry beats us, they beat us," and lo and behold, they weren't able to beat him. Then you go to the Milwaukee Bucks. One of the biggest reasons why I went 7 games is because Milwaukee still has Giannis. And the games that they won, Jrue Holiday, which, by the way, he was asked to go to Milwaukee not to be a number 2 scorer, but to be their second best defender, which he was playing great defense. It's just because Chris Middleton was out, now he has to figure out, okay, damn, I have to score more. And that's not that's not the Jrue Holiday that he is today.
Yeah, not why he's getting big.
So of course this is a if and whatever, but if Chris Middleton would have played, I don't think they would have won that series. Then you go to Miami. Miami is probably one of the biggest reasons why we didn't talk about Miami is because they're not flashy. I mean, yeah, they're a rugged team, but one thing that we always said, I think I said it on your podcast, I think you said it on mine. Can Miami score enough?
Can they score enough? Yeah.
Can they have that second score? And as we saw, they could not.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm also not saying, because Golden State, they went through first round. It was damn, who they played first round? That Denver. They went Denver without Jamal Murray and Aaron,
Yeah.
Marco Porter Jr.
Mm-hmm.
You also did play the MVP.
Yeah.
So that's something to be said.
Mm-hmm.
Next round, to me, I think you played arguably the second best defensive team without Ja Morant on the floor.
Yeah.
And they prevailed there. And then you played. It was just a mismatch. Yeah, it was a mismatch.
Yeah.
So to bring it back to the NBA Finals, what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to do something that we've seen them not do damn near this entire playoffs, and that's hold on to leads. Nearly almost every single playoff series, they've lost big leads. Hell, they were damn near about to lose a lead. Miami went on a 12-4 run in a minute and a half.
Every time Boston jumped out to a double-digit lead, Miami responded with a double-digit run in Game 7. Yeah,
and what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to pick their poison. Because what you realize with Golden State is, they have people that can. They present a issue for they present an issue for Boston that Boston has not seen this entire series, is not this entire playoffs, is not only does Golden State play defense, they can match their defense with their offense.
They do.
And you're not playing Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, the next best player is Andre Drummond. Mm-hmm. Now you're playing, Steph, Clay. Oh, the next best player is who? Andrew Wiggins. The next best player is Draymond. The next best player is Jordan Poole. It's like they're going to. Now, one thing I will say about Golden State, they have not played a defensive team like Boston.
They have not.
And I do think that
the best defensive team they've played.
Boston, with their length, with their energy, that's going to present a challenge, clearly. So I'm beating all around the bush to say I don't think I have Warriors in 6. I have Warriors in 6 because of one huge stat. Not one player on the Boston Celtics have been to the NBA Finals.
Not a one.
Now, I know they say they're battle tested. Okay. Yeah, cool. But there's difference between the Eastern Conference playoffs and the finals.
Yeah. And that is it. Players say that they just shoot it like a regular game, and that's what they're supposed to say, and that's probably what they try to do. It is not the same thing. You can tell that it's not the same thing. Like every second counts just a little bit more in the finals. And if I remember correctly, the stat is combined all the players on the Warriors roster, and by all the players, I mean Steph, Clay, and Dre, have a combined 123 games of finals experience.
Yes.
And the Celtics have none.
None. So I think that the things that they have that we've seen plague them this playoffs has not been able to has not come back to bite them, as far as giving up big leads. Sometimes looking lackadaisical after wins, sometimes looking lackadaisical on the road.
Yeah.
Sometimes Jason Tatum disappears. Sometimes Marcus Smart thinks that he's freaking Kyrie Irving and starts letting them Jones go shooting 20 shots a game. Sometimes Jalen Brown gets a little too energetic and tries to bulldoze his way to the paint and gets an offensive foul. I do think that Al Horford is a huge piece to this. But even in that, this man has played 15 years, and this is the first time he's touching the NBA Finals floor. Yeah. So I think Boston has gone through the hardest road, but I kind of tried to explain this to a friend of mine today. Golden State didn't go through the toughest road, but what they did so when you look back at Denver, that showed you how to play a better big. Right. Kevon Looney, Draymond Green was able to impose their will on Nikola Jokic. Mm-hmm. And there's no one in this world that would think Al Horford is better than Nikola Jokic. So it really showed you how to play a big.
Mm-hmm.
Memphis series, that showed you they're the most physical, rugged team. You have Desmond Bain looking like a super soldier. You have Dylan Brooks who's slapping people everywhere. That is a physical team. It shows you how to play a physical team. Because one of the knocks about the West is they're not that physical. It's more of a finesse side of the ball. So that shows you how to play physical. Then you get to Dallas. That showed you how to play against a star, a superstar.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why you saw, even though you didn't stop Luka, you slowed him down.
Yeah,
he had one of his worst, and in fact, he had his worst playoff game, I think, in the closeout game.
He did. Yeah.
So now, what does that do for you? That kind of gives Andrew Wiggins more confidence. Like, yo, and hey, you just slowed down Luka. Now it's time to do it to Jason Tatum. Now it's like, all right, Kevon Looney and Draymond Green, which Draymond Green doesn't need the confidence, but
he does not. That's
Kevon
Draymond
Looney, we're going to need you to slow down Time Lord. We're going to need you to slow down Robert Williams. Don't worry about Al Horford. If they switch, you're more physical than Al Horford. Just don't let this man shoot a corner through. For some reason, I don't know why teams continue to let Al Horford shoot corner threes. Like he can't hit them. And then they're going to say, yo, they're going to be physical. They're going to be as physical. But even with their defense, Boston is not as physical as Memphis was. So I just think, while yes, people are going to say, well, Golden State didn't have the toughest road. And neither did Boston. But, let me say, neither did Boston as far as the teams.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that every situation prepared the Warriors for Boston. Yep. I don't think every situation prepared Boston for the Warriors. Because this is the first time you have because Gary Payton II is supposed to be coming back. Andre Iguodala is supposed to be coming back. I'll see what he can give you. But this is the first time they're playing against a complete team.
Yeah.
A complete team that not only can put up 50 and a quarter on your head, but can also defend you.
Yeah.
And while Golden State has had they've dealt through people getting injured, this, that, and the third, but every situation has prepared them for Boston.
Yeah.
Not to mention the fact, like I said, 123 playoff minutes compared to 0.
Yep.
So and cards is kept. Not even Ime Udoka has been in that NBA Finals arena.
He has not. Not just including his coaching experience. He's been to about 20 of them.
Yes. So I would say I don't think they're going to win. I think it'll be I think the third game is the most important game.
Absolutely.
I think the third game is the most important game. So I'm gonna go Warriors in 6. I think it's a cop out when people say 7 because it's like it's easy. It ain't going to 8. So, but I'm gonna say Warriors in 6.
I got Warriors in 6 too. I've been married to the Warriors winning the finals since August.
Oh my gosh! I'm sorry, Go Talk people, because this man came on my podcast and I went on his, and this man was spewing. This man said, if Philly gets to the finals, nobody can stop them.
Well, yeah, can stop Joel Embiid. Yeah, of course.
People did. People stopped him.
Yeah, people found a way. Right, he's not there. So I've got Warriors in 6. Here's the stat that I think is most important. I think this is what's really going to test the laurels, specifically of Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown. Per 100 possessions, which is the best way to figure out how things work. The Warriors hold teams to 100.6 points. That is 1 point per possession.
Yeah,
that is not going to be very good for the Boston Celtics because these are the 2 highest ranked defenses in basketball. It's 1 and 2. I think Boston is 1 and the Warriors are 2. And to your point, the thing that the Warriors, we know that they can do that Boston can't, is match their offensive intensity with their defensive intensity. We haven't always seen the offensive and defensive intensity match with Boston. And here's the other thing too that I think is really important. Because you're right, Boston has struggled holding big leads. The Warriors, for as long as we've known them as this iteration of them, they have always been one of, if not the best, third quarter basketball teams in the league, especially in the playoffs.
Here we saw them hawk down Dallas.
Exactly. We saw them hawk down Dallas several times in the Western Conference Finals in the third quarter. The first and third quarters are the most important quarters of a basketball game. Just generally speaking. When you're playing the Golden State Warriors, The third quarter is the most important quarter in basketball. How do I know that? Because every single time that the third quarter was won whichever team won the third quarter in the Western Conference Finals,
won the game.
That is why the Warriors beat them 4-1, because the Mavericks only won the third quarter one time. The Warriors are a third quarter basketball team. That's where they thrive. No lead is safe with the Golden State Warriors. And the Celtics know that, right? But like you can see sometimes the Celtics kind of take their foot off the gas a little bit when they get a big lead. We saw it in Game 7, and it took multiple runs for them to kind of snap back into it. You cannot snap out of it in the finals, and you definitely can't snap out of it.
Once that Golden State Avalanche starts rolling, it's like, oh, man, like you were shell shocked.
15, and then you'll be like Luka and the Mavericks, and 5 minutes later you'll look up and you're down 10. Like it's really just that quick, and you won't know what happened. So I have the Warriors winning the championship. I think this would be a good series. I think this would be the best final series we've gotten since 2016. I don't think if it goes 6 and if it is as competitive as at least I expect it to be, I don't think last year's finals or any of the finals between 2016 and now will matter. I definitely don't think the 17 and 18 finals are going to hold a candle to it, because those were just what that was in 2017 and 2018. Just the utter mismatch. But I'm very excited for this. Thank you for coming on the show. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Please let everybody know where they can find you and what's up next for
you. Last thing, just a quick stat for your viewers. Boston is, I think, the second worst crunch time team. That's something to look at. But I appreciate you having me on. I usually don't talk about the socials, but you can follow me, _unpopular_pod. It's the podcast with the headphones, as you can clearly see. Definitely subscribe to YouTube, subscribe to wherever you listen on DSPs. I appreciate all the support. I appreciate Marcus for having me on constantly. And I'm not saying that in a disrespectful way. Like it means, you know, we're building a rapport. So I do appreciate that. And I do enjoy coming on. But yeah, follow the socials. I'm sure he'll link the whatever down below. And I do appreciate you coming on. I do appreciate you having me on, bro.
It's always a pleasure to have Jalen on the show. Thank you guys for watching and listening. You can follow on all the socials below at G2B Marcus on everything. We just hit 100 subscribers not too long ago. Thank you guys.
Brother, 100 subscribers.
Thank you guys for that. Let's try to get to 150 by the end of the year. There's an episode dropping every day this week. We dropped the Jets show on Monday. This is obviously Tuesday. You're watching this show. Tomorrow we're dropping the Giants show, and we're going live to preview the NBA Finals. So a double dose with me on Wednesday. I don't know if you want that or not, but you're going to get it. Nothing's happening on Thursday, so that's your one break. Friday we're dropping the show about the Panthers, and Saturday or Sunday we're dropping our Hell in a Cell preview, because Hell in a Cell is June 5th. So something's happening every day.
A little bit of foreshadowing. Whenever you decide to drop that Chicago Bears video that we did, just know that your mentions might be full of angry people. That's that. Just a little bit of foreshadow. That's what we call in the industry.
I'm a Packers fan. I mean, I've already got angry Chicago Bears fans in my mentions. That'll just happen.
Lord Jesus,
as long as they know that Aaron Rodgers still owns Chicago, that's all that really matters.
I guess I got to get my mentions prepared, because I didn't. Jesus,
that's all that really matters to me. I do appreciate Jalen for coming on the show as always, and I do appreciate you guys for watching and listening. So, for Jalen Hunter of the Unpopular Podcast, this is Marcus of Go Talk with Marcus signing off. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, you guys enjoy the rest of your life.